Hello, welcome to this video as we continue building a to-do planner using Django. In the previous part of this series, we handle one of the fundamental aspects of any Django project, model. In the previous video, we established three applications. We have the link, the project, and the task. And each of these applications have their various models. For example, let's take a look at the project. The project here has three models. We have a model for category, we have a model for project, and we have a model for sub-project. And looking at the tasks, we have four models: model for key result, for label, for subtasks, and for tasks. And link has just one model, a model for link. We also talk about specific fields just to understand how they are being used and why they are being used. We also talk about relationships like the foreign key and also many-to-many relationships. In part 5 of this series, we'll look at how Django handles users and how you can customize it for your own projects. This section is very important because every website needs a way to identify who is using it. Whether it's logging in, managing permission, managing resources, users are at the core of every web application. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment to support the content. Code with Eno. The batteries included approach of Django provides an authentication system out of the box that gives us a basic user model that is blocked with session-based authentication, which I will say works perfectly well with a browser-based application. When we create a new Django application, Django by default comes with some applications, and among those applications we have the Django.contrib.auth that provide us with the inbuilt user model, and also the Django.contrib.session that provide us with a session-based authentication. They are all included in the install app configuration of the setting, but we can see here it is a little bit different because I've made some changes based on the previous videos. Let's investigate the standard user model provided by Django out of the box. So here in my makefile, I will add a command that will use the Django underscore extension package for we are going to see how it looks like. So but I'm going to add the command here. I'm going to call it dev shell plus, and here I'm just going to paste the command so we can see it uses the shell underscore plus of that package. And once I have that, and I'm gonna open my terminal here and say make dev shell plus, and we can see it runs and it imports all our models and some functions that we can use as well. So this is really good for development. So our user model is really important. If I do user like this and I run it, we can see the user is coming from the Django contrib auth, and this application has the module that contains the user class or the user model. Okay, so what we can do is that we can use the underscore meta of that particular model to get all the fields. So we can do user dot underscore meta get fields, and once we run that, we can see all the fields that comes with that particular model. We can see the ID, the passwords, the last login, the super user, username, first name, and so on and so forth. This does not really give us a lot of details about the fields, things like the length, if it has the index or any constraint or whatever. All right, so what we can do is that, for me, what I like to do is to import that particular class in my VS Code, then I try to verify the source code. So what I'm saying is that, let's say for example, I'm going to go to the core, and in the core I'm just going to import the user model here just for testing purposes. So I'm going to say from Django contrib.auth.models import user. On my Mac OS, I will hold the command button and click on the user model, and it's going to take me to the source code. So we can see the user inherit the abstract user that contains majority of the fields. So if we go to that source code, we will see the username, and we see that the username has a maximum length of 150, and also it has the unique property set to true. It has also a validator here. We can see the first name and last name, and they all have blank set to true, meaning that the form on the admin dashboard, for example, can be empty. The is staff here determine if the user is able to log into the admin site, and we have the is active that also determine if the account is active or not. And the login mechanism of Django, that is the model backend, will prevent any user from logging in to the admin site if the is active is false. We also have the date join that also indicate when the user was created. So if we go up, we can see that if we go to the permission mixing, we'll see there is super user, okay, that give access to all the admin site property to that user, or all the admin site permission to that user. We have the group, which is a many-to-many relationship with the group for access control. We also have the user permission for access control. So coming back to what we had previously, if we go to the abstract base user, we will see the password and also the last login. All right, and the password, of course, maximum length is 128. Okay, the last login, we have blank and null set to true. So we explained the differences between these two in our previous video. In most basic cases, the standard fields that we have seen are good enough for basic projects. However, organizations may have custom requirements that will need additional fields, or total change of fields, or may omit certain fields. This is where custom models comes in to save the day. There are two ways of creating a customized user model in Django. The first one is by extension, extending the user model by a one-to-one relationship. Whenever there is a requirement to add additional fields to what is already provided by Django, this is the simplest and best solution. In this case, for example, we create a model called user profile. Then we use the one-to-one relationship that will extend the user built-in model, and we can add additional fields to this user profile. So right now I'm in the link application. Okay, so what I can do is that here I can just go ahead and create the profile, the user profile. This is just an example, user profile, and I will just allow this to inherit the model. Okay, it can still inherit our abstract model, but since this is just an example, it can just inherit our the models.model. And here we can say the additional field will be h, that will be a positive integer. So go ahead and just remove this, and we can say here the user would be in a one-to-one relationship with the user that come from the auth application. So we're gonna say auth, and here we have the user. So just go ahead and remove all of this. So right now we have our user profile, or our customized user that has the additional field h and uses the one-to-one relationship to extend the user built-in model. Now we can come here at the level of the link and say the user here will be, and we use foreign key in this case, and here we're gonna say apps underscore link, because that's the label that we're using. We set that in the apps.py, we can see it here. Okay, and I explained why we did that in our previous video, so check it out. So right here we have the apps underscore link dot user profile. Okay, go ahead and remove this, and that's it. We have created our customized user by extending the user model. The second option is by expansion, expanding the abstract user or abstract base user. Whenever there's a requirement to update only the username of the user model or to create all fields from scratch, then this is the best solution. We create a new model, and this model either inherit the abstract user or the abstract base user. The abstract user is used when we want to update only the username of the user model, and the abstract base user is used when we want to create all fields from scratch. For this project, we'll use by expansion, meaning that we'll create a new user model, and we're going to expand by inheriting the abstract base user model. Looking at the design, we see that the abstract user contains majority of the fields already, but I want to have total control of all the fields. So that's the reason why we are going to inherit the abstract based user instead of the abstract user. So we'll start by creating a new application for that. And for me to do that, I have a command in my make file to help me do that easily. And here is the command, the dev start app. So on my terminal, just go out of this shell first and gonna say make dev start app. And for this variable a that contains the name of the application, I will pass in the user. All right, so when I run that, see my user has been created in the apps folder. Okay, so here I'm gonna just do a little bit of modification, especially at the level of the apps.py of that user application. So here I'm gonna say apps dot because the application comes from the apps folder, and because this dot may cause some issues, we want to add in a label, and this label will be apps underscore user. And for me to represent it the right way at the admin site, I'm gonna add in the verbose name, and here it's gonna be just user. So that's the first change that I'm gonna do here. And the second one will be to inform Django about this application. So I will just copy this user config, then move to the configuration settings, and in the base.py, just at the level of the custom apps, that contains application created by me. So I'm gonna say apps.user.apps.user config. All right, so once we have our application set up, we can now move on to creating our custom users. So we go to the apps, to the user application, and in the model, we can import a few things. So we're gonna import the abstract base user from Django contrib auth models. Gonna import the abstract base user, and we're also gonna import the permission mixing. So just to remind us that the permission mixing provides groups and also provide the permission. Okay, and the abstract base user provides the last login and also provide the password. And we are also gonna import from apps.core.models. We're gonna import the abstract model that contains some of the common fields that we identified in the previous video, such as the public ID and also the name, I think. So we're gonna look into that. So this is supposed to be abstract model. So just to look at the source code real quick, we can go there and see we have the public ID, name, created at, and modified at. All right, perfect. So coming back to our model, we're gonna create a new class and we're gonna call it user. Okay, we can call it user planner to make it a little bit more specific. Okay, and this is gonna inherit the abstract base user, and it's gonna inherit the abstract model, and lastly it's gonna inherit the permission mixing. So first thing first, we're going to eliminate the name because the name is provided by the abstract model, but it's not needed in the user planner. In Django, to do that, we can set it to none. Okay, and the next one will be the username. The username uses a char field, and we can set it to 50, maximum length of 50, of course. And because a lot of queries will use this field, we can set an index on this field. So we can do that in Django with the db index set to true. We also want to make this field unique, so we're gonna set the unique equals to true as well. All right, so the next field will be the first name. The first name will be a char field. We can set this one to 255, a length of 255. And the next one will be the last name. Let me just copy this and paste and change to last name. The next one will be phone number. We can use the normal phone number that comes with Django, but because I want my phone number to use a global space, I will use a package called the Django phone number field. We are going to install it later on, But for now, I will just go ahead and comment this out and move to the next field, which is the email. The email will use the email field from Django, and of course a lot of queries also will contain this field, so we want to do the db index equals to true, and also we want to make it unique equals true. The next field will be date of birth. Of course, date of birth we use the date field from Django, so we want to remove all the settings. So these settings, this setting auto now and auto now add were explained in the previous video. Okay, so you can check that out as well. The next one will be country, and here we can use char field, but later on we are going to check if there's any package that can help us to list all the available countries in a drop down. Okay, so we are going to do that. Let me just put a comment here so that I don't forget. So let me say check a library that can provide countries, name of countries in a global space. Okay, so the next one will be profession. Profession will be a char field, and here we can change the maximum length to 200, and I think profession can be optional, so in this case we're gonna set the blank equals to true and the null equals to true. So here I'm gonna put the country to be optional as well, so it is not really necessary. So the next one is gonna be is active. Remember, the is active help us to determine if an account is active or not, so we can use this, and it's gonna use the boolean field of Django, and the default here would be true. We have also the is staff that helps to determine if this user can log into the admin site. It's gonna be also boolean with default. I think the default here would be false. Okay. Alright, so down here we're gonna set what should be used as username in login form. So we're gonna do that with the username field, and we're gonna set it to username. And down here we're gonna set the require field that will be used when we're creating, for example, a super user. Okay, when we're creating a super user from the terminal, these are the fields that we need to provide. So we'll do that with the required field, and the required field should not contain the username field. So here we're gonna pass in the other fields. The email will be required. We have the first name will be required. We have the date of birth will be required, and the country, let's say, okay, so here we said the country is not required, so I'm gonna remove this from there. And we have the email, the first name, and date of birth that are all required. So here I think the last name may not be required, so here I'm gonna put in the blank equals to true and unique equals to true. So for our phone number, let's go ahead and install the package that we will use. So here I will install the package. Let me make sure that I've activated my virtual environment, even though it's not necessary with UV, because UV art is going to detect the virtual environment there. So we're going to say UV art, and we're going to use this. So you can check this on PyPy to see exactly how to install it. So here I'm going to use this command and run it. So make sure that they are all in a double or single quotes. Hopefully that should work. Okay. Alright, so with that installed, we can go to our settings in the base.py, and under the third-party apps, we can go ahead and add this. Alright, to inform Django about it. And from there, we can move to our model, the user model, and do the various settings for our phone number. So first thing first, we'll do some import. So we will say from phone number field dot model field import phone number field, and down here we will uncomment this and say phone number field. We will make it unique, of course, equals to true, and also we're gonna set region equals to none. So what the region does is that it's going to accept numbers from any country, which is perfect for global users. And one thing to know is that the phone number field, this phone number field from the package we just installed, is going to store phone number in a normalized international format. Let's complete this part by adding at least two methods. So the first one will be the $string method that is going to return the username, or we can say the first name, and in here we have the email. Okay, so we can have something like this. And the other method will be a property that is going to return the full name. All right, so we can say full names, and it's going to return this first name, and we have last name. So maybe we can add the username somewhere here. I don't know. We can say username instead here. All right, so the username, and this one is going to contain the email. If we want to get the first name and last name, we can always console the full name property. A model manager is a class that behaves as an interface through which Django models interact with databases. Every Django model by default has a class attribute called objects that actually hold an instance of the model.manager. If not set manually, then the model.models will set it through its meta class called model-base. Looking again at the user source code, we can see the built-in user defines its own manager, custom manager. If we go to the user manager that is used by the built-in user, we can see it defines method for creating user and creating super user. Okay, it also takes into account the required field, because when we create a super user from the terminal, we need to provide those fields that are specified in the required field. Because our own required field is different from this, we are going to create our own custom manager that is going to meet the need of our own user. So at the level of the user application, we go to the model, and here we need to build our custom manager. We can do that with the help of the abstract user manager that comes from the contrib auth model. So we can import it here, base user manager, and down here we're going to create a new class. We're going to call it user manager, and it will inherit the base user manager. And here we need to establish two methods, the create user and the create super user. All right, so for the create user, we will say create user, and here it will take in the fields that were mentioned in the required field. Okay, so first one, we have this mandatory self, and we have the username that comes from the username field. Okay, so everything that comes from the username field here is also required. So this one and everything here as well. So we're gonna say username here will be string. We have the email, which should be a string. We have the first name, a string, and we have the password as well, which is also required. Okay, password comes from the abstract base user. Okay, so with that, once we have the required field, we can now go ahead and pass any other field that is needed. Okay, so first thing first, we will verify the fields above to make sure that the required fields are given. Okay, so we're gonna say if username is none, then we want to go ahead and raise an exception. We can raise the type error and say user must have a username. So we're going to use the same format for all the other fields. Here we can say if email is none, then we're going to say your email user must have an email. We do the same thing for the first name, and we say user must have a first name. We do the same thing for the password, and we say user must have a password. Once that is said, then we go ahead and create our user. So we're going to say user planner equals to, which is going to be of type user planner, of course. We use the serve model that will contain the model, okay? And here we pass in the different values. So we pass in the username, it's going to be the username. The email will be, we use the normalized email, okay? So we can see from this documentation that says normalize the email address by lowercasing the domain part of it. The next one will be the first name. The next one will be the first name, and we have the date of birth. Let's make sure the date of birth was here. So we omitted the date of birth, but we can see the date of birth is actually required here. It's a required field. So we make sure that we put it there. So I'm gonna copy that and let me just put it somewhere here. And this one will be of type dates, okay? So we'll come back to the type later on, and let me just put the type here. So from date time, I will import date, and the dates of birth will have the type in dates. So we also gonna check to make sure that the date of birth was given. Date of birth, and we say user must have a date of birth, okay? With that, we can go ahead and say date of birth will be date of birth, okay? And I think that's it. So we make sure we pass in the required fields, and once we have that, we can go ahead and set the password. So we say user planner dot set password, so that it should be hashed, okay? The password should be stored as a hash value. Once that is done, we go ahead and save it. So we're gonna save it with save, and here we can specify using the DB. So it's gonna be serve_DB. That's gonna take in the database for that user, okay? For the user model, of course. And once we have that, we can go ahead and return the user planner. So the data type return here would be user planner, okay? So yeah, I can use it as a string because it's not actually recognized there. For the create super user will be straightforward. So I can just go ahead and copy this and modify a few things here. So let's do this. Okay, so this will be create super user. And yeah, all we can do, what we can do here is that we can use the create user that we have already here, and we can see the create user has all the verification that we don't need to repeat again. So here we say the user planner, which is of type user planner, will be equals to serve.create user, and we pass in all the values. So pass in the username, the email, the first name, the date of birth, and the password, and everything else in quacks. Okay, so once we have that, we can go ahead and set a few things to make it super user. So we can set the super user property to true, and we can set in the is staff to true. Then we go ahead and save it using serve_DB. and we return user planner. So that's all we need for now. So I'll come back at the level of the user planner, our custom user, and just down here I will set the objects equals to user manager. Okay, so right now we have our customized user. So the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and use it where we need it. Okay, so I will go to the project application, and yeah, I think in the project we need it. Yeah, so I'm gonna say user equals to foreign key, and here I will use the apps underscore user dot this, and I can remove this. So we're gonna use the onDelete equals to model cascade, such that if the user is deleted, then the project or the project related to that user will be deleted as well. So I can go ahead and copy this, and I think the I don't know if the tags needs it, so let me just check. Yeah, okay, the label needs it, so we're gonna put it here, save it, and let me just make sure that we have at the level of the project, we make sure that the constraint, okay, so here the constraint, we have to set the unique together to make sure that a user should create any project that is created will have as unique value the user itself and the name of that particular project. We have user, and here we have name. Okay, all right, so we move on to let's go on to the, I think at the level of the tags, let's see the label. Okay, so here we have this, and also we need to add this in the class meta. We need to add in the unique together, and it's also going to be the user and the name. So we go on to, let me check the subtags. No, let's check the tags. I think the tag should have, no, it doesn't. So I think the last one would be at the level of the link. So yeah, we're gonna say, we're gonna paste what we copied from the previous model, and yeah, we're gonna add in the class meta unique together equals to this user and the URL. Okay, so one more thing that we need to do is to notify Django of our new user model so that Django can use it, okay, for anything that has to do with the user. So we go to the config setting, and around the base.py, we can go right at the end. Yeah, just make sure this is double, I don't know why. So yeah, we're gonna set the auth user model. This will tell Django to use our new customized user model. So we're gonna say apps underscore user dot user planner. Okay, perfect. So right now we can go ahead and apply the changes, but we can't just do that, okay, because we made a mistake of migrating the first time without our custom user. So it is recommended, if you need a custom user, to build a custom user before you do your first migration. But because we went against those rules, we have to do something really terrible, which is to delete our migration, delete our database, and start all over. So make sure that if you need your custom user, build your custom user before you go ahead and do the first migration. Okay, all right, so here what we'll do is that we'll delete everything. So we'll start by deleting the cache, just in case. So we go ahead and run this to delete all the underscore py cache and so on and so forth. So I'm gonna put this command in my readme in my GitHub so that you can check it. And the next thing is to go ahead and delete all our migration. Okay, so we're gonna do this with this command. So this will delete all the migration files. And the next thing is that I'm gonna go ahead and delete my database. Okay, so I can go ahead and do that with this, and so we'll enter the PSQL, and we remember the port was 5433 because we have two PostgreSQL, the I think 16 and the latest version. So with that, we can say the user will be Postgres, and we give the password Postgres. And here we can see what is the database that we use for this application. So let me go to my .env. I can see this is the name of the database that we use. So we'll go ahead and delete that and create it again. So we say drop database, all right, and create. We can create database, the database with this user. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and switch to this user, still using the Postgres database, and we switch to this user, and we give the password of that user. Okay, so now we are now connected with this user. So here we can go ahead and create the database, and that. With that, I can go ahead and run my migration. So I have the command here, my makefile. So let me see. It is def make migration. So I'm gonna copy that. Hopefully it works. So make this. All right, so we go ahead and migrate now. Make def migrate. Perfect. In our next video, we will talk about testing, where we'll be testing our Django models. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment to support the channel. Code with Eno. See you in the next video.